Thanks for coming on the show today. Everybody, Dan Antonelli, you may not know him, but 30 plus years in the business, KickCharge Creative. I've heard about you for a long time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, buddy. Yeah, 30 years. It's crazy. 30 years and about 3,000 home service brands created since then. So it's been a pretty remarkable journey. Starting from my basement, working by myself to now we have 55 employees. So it's been awesome. Just super blessed to work in the trades.
Love it. And you guys we're talking about your passion for Corvettes, and it's snowing up in New Jersey and you can't drive it. So I get it, because we're waiting for the boat down in Savannah to warm up for spring. So we're all trying to work for something. And those are just some of the things we work for. But I for a long time as a roofing contractor, I knew that you guys built really strong brands. And it seemed like vehicle wrapping or designing vehicle wrapping was the thing that you were known for. But I think it's important that people see you guys do way more than that and understand that. And if you're seeing and watching this or listening to this, this is a chance to hear the whole gamut of what you guys offer. Let's just kind of break that down, because it's important. I was on your website. I was actually surprised I didn't know some of the information. Let's go through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we approach marketing from a very brand-centric vantage point. So we look at the brand as being foundational. So before you can create all these other marketing assets, unless you have that solid foundation, those other assets just will not function as well as they possibly can. So for us, a lot of clients come to us. We start with the branding, whether it's using their existing name or renaming them. We rename a lot of home service companies. I think last year we probably renamed over 50 home service companies, and I think we've renamed at least 100 so far. And then once that piece is done, then obviously developing the logo and then how the logo appears on all the other marketing channels. So the truck is obviously one of the most important applications of the branding. Then we also have a full team here to do traditional print media. So brochures, billboards, uniform, stationery, site signs, like all the things that you would, physically hold. And then of course we have a really amazing digital marketing team that handles everything from the web design to SEO, PPC, LSA management, social media management, email marketing. So all the channels that your customer may come in contact with your particular brand, we can facilitate making sure that they're always done correctly, speaking your voice and speaking the promise of what your brand can deliver for that consumer.
Yeah. Love it. This is all super helpful to understand. Let's expose some of my mistakes. Kind of behind me, you'll see I keep these hats on purpose. We have DeLaurier Roofing and Renovation. First of all, there's a couple things. This looks like everything else. This is, again, more than 10 years ago. So didn't really know. And it's one of those situations where previous boss owed me a bunch of money, didn't have any money because they owed me all the money, went through my savings. I was like, I don't know what to do. And so this was I think it was I don't even know if fiber was around. But anyway, designed this in about 2 seconds. The name was just not thought out. And there's so many things wrong with anyone trying to start a business with something like this right now. In 2026, you just really can't do that in the roofing space. You will be forgotten immediately. So I don't know how much you guys go through, how deep you guys get in the business. But for me, offering multiple services or too many services that was too broad was a really bad mistake. And I see this over and over again. I used to build decks, and we did kitchens and screen porches and bathrooms. It's important to know this. We get this question quite a bit, what new logo designs? It's way more than that. Mm-hmm. So here's the first example. It's great. It was a learning experience. It was crazy. We did $1 million our first year and made no money. I was like, all right, I got to fix something. And this was by myself in 2016. $1 million, all my huge companies were doing $1 million in my market. It was a very small market. These massive companies were doing 1.4 million. And I did 1.04 or something like that. So then we realized, can't be blue and black and everybody else is. Got to be neon. So we did the same thing, and we narrowed the market and narrowed the services, right? We just did roofing. So it was more ideal. We had other designs and variations, but at the end of the day, really no guidance from professionals like you guys. And so I don't want to even try to calculate the millions of dollars that we probably lost because people could not spell or say our name. Mm-hmm. And talk to me about that. What do you see with your prospects, potential clients, and the new clients? It's there's going to be some anecdotal, there's some stories, but I know that story, my story, just the beginning of many, many mistakes about brand. Uh, if I could go back in time, that's one of the first things I would have done is change
Yeah,
all that and thought it because it would have changed
absolutely.
the trajectory of my entire business.
Yeah, I think you touch upon something that is literally the first thing most entrepreneurs get wrong on day one is they name their business incorrectly. So you named it after your last name. You said, "Hey, this is a good idea. Let me name it after myself." The worst things you can possibly name your business is initials, like JD Roofing, absolutely the worst. Second worst thing you can name your business is your last name. So you have the added bonus of having a last name that no one knows how to spell or pronounce, which is even worse, right? So you have kind of the trifecta of things to not do. It's funny when I wrote my book, Branded Not Blanded, naming is the biggest chapter because it is, like I said, the thing that most people get wrong on day one. And you will spend a lifetime trying to overcome the deficiencies of a poor name. And those deficiencies can be overcome, but the way that they're overcome is you need to overspend on marketing to overcome that flaw. So naming, just really, really important to get that right from day one. Names that deliver promise, names that evoke visuals, names that if I just verbally spoke that particular brand name, I would have a sense of what I might get as a consumer as a deliverable. So that's where we talk about brand promise and having names that speak to brand promise are superior. And then names that evoke visuals. So if I only said the name of the business, I can imagine what the brand might look like. And I'll give you an example. People can check it out later, but we did a brand for a company called Roof Gecko. You've seen it, maybe you've never seen
Hmm.
it. But if you've never seen it, you might suspect what that logo might look like. It's orange and apple green, and it uses a gecko, right? So all the visuals, again, when you put up on a screen a series of logos for most roofing contractors, you will see many logos that look exactly the same. But if you had the Roof Gecko logo among any of those, it would look completely different. And so trying to think about branding in that perspective as well as what can I do so that my brand appears to be different than everyone else's and then therefore most likely to be remembered and recalled later on. So colors is a good aspect. I think where you were going with the black and the apple green was in the right direction as far as trying to own a specific color palette that maybe no one in your market was using. That's actually a good idea. It's why when we do branding, we research the market and determine what colors are not being used in that particular market, and then make decisions based on what the marketplace gives us as far as opportunities to stand out in that particular market. But yeah, so it is kind of interesting when you look at roofing and you see the same clip art logos for roofer after roofer and that we call that blanding and sort of that notion of blending in and those are the same people who are pissed off at Google because they're spending so much on their leads and instead of someone typing in the name of their company like something memorable like Roof Gecko, they're typing in roofing company near me and now you're fighting for that lead and you're paying for that lead. But wouldn't it be nice if they knew your name already? Like, how much cheaper would that lead cost you? So much of what we talk about and we subscribe to is the philosophy of doing everything you possibly can for your brand to become 5 mile famous in the community that you serve. What if everyone within 5 miles of your location knew you existed? How much money do you think you would need to spend on marketing then if everyone within 5 miles knew you were the best roofer in your community? And how do you become 5 mile famous? What do you do to become 5 mile famous? And so the idea of disruptive branding and then developing brands that are sticky, that live in people's minds, that deliver promise, that don't look like everyone else's. I mean, those are all aspects of how you do that truly.
Yep. Very true. Uh, Talking about Joe Hughes and contractor dynamics, all the 5 mile famous stuff is again, I don't want to calculate the painful lack of revenue that I would have had if I had done a good job. I have a question. So it's a very messy story, but because at the end of the day, we sold our business about a year ago. And we had a lot of assets that were super valuable. That's why we sold it. But we, through the part, again, exposing my mistakes. Trademarks are important, people.
Mhm.
Make sure that you actually know what trademark law is in your state. So we got a cease and desist for renaming. We rebranded. I don't want to get sued, so I'm not going to talk about that brand. But we did have another brand, and it was very simple. And I actually trademarked the name of this brand. I haven't gone through the whole thing, but I spent hours and hours and hours. I was referred to a trademark attorney. Highly recommend doing that.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you guys have KickCharge has the
Oh, yeah.
same type of people. You
Yeah.
need to actually understand that's a very specific type of attorney. And she was amazing. She was very patient with me, but it's a process you need to do. I'll just say that. It's a process you need to
Yeah.
do to part of your naming if you're worried about trademark infringement at any point in time. And I know KickCharge can take you through that. But it was really important to me to do that. And we spent literally 3 different sessions just going through names
Yeah.
and going through ideas. And we trademarked a name. And so I have that asset now. This is nothing about roofing, but what it is something that it's an education, a very expensive, painful, stressful education that I'm giving you right now. Make sure that you reach out to KickCharge or a trademark attorney if you're ever worried about anything close to somebody else, because
Yeah.
the wrong person with the deep enough pockets will make your life very miserable.
I think what, and what you described too, people think that the benchmark that they need to live up to when naming their company is whether or not it's available in their state database for the LLC. So they go on their state database and they'll type in their name and they'll see, oh my God, well, no one in this state is using this name. I can use it then.
Yep.
And that's not the benchmark. Federal
It is not.
supersedes state, right? So it doesn't matter what your state says as far
Yes.
as the name being viable. It just simply means that there isn't another LLC that's named for this particular name in that state, which in theory might give you pause because you might say, wow, no one has this name. Why don't they? Why hasn't no one thought of this name? But they never bothered to check federal, and federal is the one that's going to get you in trouble, right?
Yep.
So you can have approval in your state, and your state may say, oh yeah, you can use this name, but federal has nothing to do with state.
Right.
And so the benchmark for us, like people like, oh my God, why do you guys charge so much for naming? And I'm like, do you guys have any idea like how hard it is to name a company between the lawyers and the legal fees and then the research that's involved and making sure that the name that we recommend you're going to be able to trademark and be able to use? There's a lot of work that goes into that. And it's crazy to see people disregard trademark and even launch knowing that the name is trademark. There's 2 examples recently of 2 roofing companies that still decided to launch their companies with names that they can't own. And they're like, well, I guess we'll deal with it if it comes up. And I'm like, deal with it if it comes up. Do you know how disruptive that will be if you're 2 years into this journey and you get a cease and desist by someone that has taken the time to register their name? So there's obviously a reason why they decided to do that.
Yep.
And you don't have any defense. There's no defense that's going to warrant you or get you out of this. It's like a slam dunk. If they filed it before you and they've been using it before you, that's it. You're done. And
trademark law is very, very airtight. So you just described all the mistakes I made. So I checked for LLCs. I checked for URLs. So I owned, here's how crazy it is. I owned the URL and the LLC in my state. And I also checked the trademark. It was not trademarked. Doesn't matter. I'm in Georgia. That didn't matter. The plaintiff sued me for just using the name previously. That's it. That's all they had.
Yeah.
They owned none of the other assets. Nothing. It didn't matter.
And even just searching, by the way, too, like you may search a certain way and think, oh my God, well, I'm clear because nothing else pops up. But there's phonetics involved too. Even if verbally, when you say the name, it can be confused with their name. You're done. Like, so while we do a lot of preliminary research when we are thinking of names that we might recommend to a client, we never, if the client is interested, then we loop in the lawyers and we say, well, listen, we have to get an actual professional opinion on this. And because they have much deeper ways to search, to flag things that potentially could come back and bite you in the ass. knock on wood, we've never had an issue with a name that we've proposed over the years, but it takes a lot of time and it's freaking hard. It's not easy to do. You have so many things that you have to consider about naming, aside from even just a trademark. It's like, well, what is the brand story we're going to tell? What are the visuals we're going to tell? Can we use alliteration? Is it easy to spell? Like, there's all these things that you have to be really, really considering. But it does really blow my mind seeing some folks, you know, not caring to really research, and I shouldn't say not caring, they just don't know. Like, when you did all this, you thought you did everything the right
Yeah,
way.
I spent months on this. I was like, I'm gonna make sure it's gonna be a very expensive for me.
Yeah, yeah, uh,
Tens and that ten so much money that I literally wasted because I didn't reach out to people like you.
yeah,
And I thought I knew. And at the end of the day, now that I know, I hope this is helping people understand. If you reach out to KickCharge, like that seems expensive. Trust me, it is more expensive to not do it. We're
well,
talking about like 10x the
yeah,
difference for me personally by not doing that.
and
And it
I
was
don't,
devastating.
when I see a guy launch his brand that didn't use us, and this happened recently, and they're like, "Oh, here's my new brand," and one of this company recently that just launched the brand. And I know the owner and I'm friends with him, and I just said, "Hey, bro," like, I sent him the link to the federal trademark, I'm like, "Bro, you can't use this name." And he was already into it, like, the truck was done, the
Sure.
website was done.
I had to
He's like,
rewrap my
"Alright."
trucks, my vehicles. I had to do all that. Everything you're saying, I had to redo it.
He was like, "All right, well, we're too far into it, so I'm just gonna roll the dice." And I'm just like, I'm like, "Dude, it's not gonna get any cheaper in 6 months to
Yeah.
redo everything, but hey, if it works out, great, like, God bless." But I would just always be wondering, and then if you ever go to sell, right? So this is the other piece to
Hmm.
think about, right? So when private equity is looking at acquiring your company, perhaps they're going to do the due diligence on the name in which you're trading under. And if they come up and they determine that you're using a name that you don't have the rights to even use, how do you think that's going to affect your valuation on the exit? Because they're
Yeah,
going to know right away.
they're not gonna buy you. They're like they're
Either they're
not
not
doing
going to
it.
buy you or they're going to heavily discount you because
Yeah,
they're going to like, well, your brand name has to change. We're going to get
it's a
sued
threat. Yeah.
for using a name that you can't even own. So the intellectual property that you acquire, and when you do it correctly and you obtain the federal trademark, that has value on the exit, because also that PE company may decide, I want to put this in 5 other states because it's such an amazing brand. And then they find out, well, we're not even supposed to be using this in one state. Like, again, those are all things to think about. So sometimes when people are like, oh my God, branding is so expensive or naming so expensive, or investing in branding and naming is expensive. I'm like, well, how much is not investing in branding and naming
Way more. Way more. It's a
gonna
lot
cost,
more.
right?
Here's how roofers make it home for dinner every single night without losing a single sale, even when they're one-man shows. Automate your communication with ProLine, the only communication-first CRM for roofers. Because when you fix your communication, you'll sell more jobs. Your weekends will smell more like sunscreen and backyard barbecues than that crappy gas station coffee. And all you got to do is ask these roofers.
Before we had about 200% growth, and I attribute that to incorporating ProLine.
But just with one automation, I was able to get 25 Google reviews.
It's been absolutely insane how quickly we were able to grow.
Now, ProLine's not going to win the beauty pageant, but it will save your Saturday. Now, back to the show.
You don't know what you don't know, right?
Sure.
So why I wrote the book Branded Not Blanded was, I was like, imagine I could get this book in the hands of people that are thinking about starting a business. Because if they read this book before they started the business, they would avoid so many of these mistakes that so many new owners and entrepreneurs make literally on day one. It's sad. Like, I don't particularly enjoy the fact that, or relish in the fact that we had to rename 50 home service companies last year because they didn't get it right on day one. Like, it's never a easy decision to make, and it's a decision that you have to take a lot of care in. But I wish I never had to name a single company. I wish they had gotten it right from day one, because it's always easier to build off of the name than to rebrand and rename them. On the other side of it, they're going to come out a much better space because they have a better name and a better brand to build from. But I wish they had done that on day one. Like, that just would have been ideal.
Yeah. Makes sense. So when you're looking at home service companies or potential customers for KickCharge, like, what's a few things, 1 to 3 things that are just screaming to you, like, this is not going to scale? Like, what are some, like, when it comes to branding or what you guys offer, what are some things that are like this, you're struggling to scale because of these things?
Mm-hmm. So I mean, listen, you have the pure logistics of the brand itself, and I could look at any brand and identify deficiencies just in maybe the layout, the composition, the truck wrap design. Like those are all easy deficiencies to identify. I think the other piece of it though is when you look at operationally how the company is functioning, the data really tells a lot of that story as well, right? So in as much as I love creating, we love to make beautiful brands and things like that, the things that we're most interested in is how do those brands affect the KPIs that matter most to a business. So when you look at things like booking rates and close rates and average tickets, customer acquisition costs, and you look at the effect that brand has on those specific KPIs, that's typically when you can identify deficiencies within the brand itself. So again, low booking rates, low conversion rates. Well, why is that happening? And some of that you can trace back to staff. You can trace that back to maybe poor training on staff. But some of the case studies that we've developed over time is a lot of times you have companies that operate fairly well from an efficiency standpoint and a management standpoint. But the brand itself is the anchor that they're dragging along, and that's why the KPIs are being affected. So as they try to get higher average tickets, for example, Mrs. Jones doesn't believe there's a reason why she would ever want to or need to pay a premium for your service. But what if we could control the way Mrs. Jones thinks, and before you ring the doorbell, she believes that the experience she's going to get from your company is going to be superior than anyone else. Is she therefore willing to pay more for that service? Of course she is. It's the same reason why someone believes that there's a reason to pay more for a BMW than to pay for a Toyota. Right? So I think people forget sometimes that the function of brand is to really set up the perspective, not the perspective, but the the idea of what this company stands for. Like, what can I expect to get? And the perception of the company is the right word, by the way, perception. So if I can control the perception of your company before she calls you or even picks up the phone, and then if I could build a brand that lives in her mind and she can recall it later on, then all those things are going to be affected. I won't need to spend them as much as marketing because people know I exist. You see these guys running around in white vans, like
I was just gonna
would
say
yeah
the
why
white
would
van, the white truck. I'm like, what is going on?
yeah like
Still
why would
happening
anyone
today.
remember your white van in a sea of 1,000 other white vans? Is there
Yeah.
something like so there's things like that I think people don't understand how it affects those metrics, and sometimes these are the same people really pissed off at their digital marketing company. They're pissed
Yep.
off at how much they have to spend to Google to get a lead and acquire a customer. And I'm like, dude, don't be pissed off at the digital marketing company or Google. Like, you're invisible in the community you serve. No one knows you exist. What do you
Yeah.
expect? But even looking at conversion rates for companies that have better brands, um, they're so much higher because people assign an element of trust to a brand that they've seen repeatedly in their communities. So when you were spending all this money on ads and then they hit the ad and they go to the website and they're like, I've never seen these guys before. Well, boom, right away, your conversion rate is affected by that simple
Yep.
fact. But if they're like, oh my God, I saw this on my neighbor's driveway. I saw this at the community event. I saw this at the 4th of July parade. These guys obviously must be trustworthy because they're in my community. I know, like, and trust them, right? So know, like, and trust is another piece of the brand, but it's so much easier to get them to know, like, and trust when you have a brand that they can connect with, that they care about, that they've seen, that they remembered. And that's why the clip art rooftop, like, why am I going to cherry pick that particular clip art rooftop and identify with it and then recall it later on? I'm not. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. Again, speaking from personal experience, that first year I did $1 million. I scraped together like $750 to have like professional vinyl in my truck because I knew, again, not a great brand, not memorable, but I beat all the white vans and the white trucks that are out there with magnets on them.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, like, I had immediate trust. And I had one truck. It was me. And people saw my trucks everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yep.
I was like, and we were competing against other, like, there was a $50 million company, mainly commercial, but they had a bunch of trucks. And then another company that had been around for 85 years.
Wow.
And I was just like on par with them because I didn't have thousands of dollars for a full wrap. But if I can go back in time, I would have taken more time to work on my brand and my name and understand that. And then when we wrapped our trucks years later, it was shocking to me, the ROI. We talk about customer acquisition cost. A lot of again, to your point, we see complaints over and over again. All marketers are crooks. Like, well, first of all, you don't have conversion. You don't even have automations to respond to the leads that come. Anyway, that's the one thing ProLine fixes very well. But like, to your point, if there's mental hurdles as people are clicking on forms and it's not smooth and it's not trusted and the name's not professional, like all these things customers expect way before the inspection happens, way before the sales process. That is the beginning of the sales process.
Yeah.
The brand is it. And so so many times they're like, you're the most expensive or you're one of the most expensive. We're going with you because we trust you. Right. And it was because everything was consistent. We had, even though it was the normal standard brand, at least it was all consistent. We always wore polo shirts. We had I always wore everything the same. Everything looked the same. The website looked the same. It was there's no like hurdles. And that was, again, 10 years ago where the expectation from customers was way lower and we were crushing it. Now you better understand that this is what customers expect. The expectation from customers, from homeowners, is so much higher because there are other people in your market doing exactly what you're saying. They care about naming. They care about the logo. They care about the name. They care about the digital side of things. They understand acquisition costs. Like, it's not sustainable for most people to run the old way. I mean, it's almost certainly for 90% of all roofing or home service contractors to just like pay a marketing agency, run ads. It's not going to work. Your acquisition cost is like $1,500, $1,600, $1,800 minimum just to get one customer if your close rate is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, again, to your point, like a lot of hate on marketing companies, and there are a lot of bad marketing companies, no doubt. But like when we look at the data, like one of the big things for us on the digital marketing side is transparency, because what I want to prove is I want to prove ROAS. I want to say you spent X and we delivered Y in terms of opportunity for you. And this is closed revenue and this is booked revenue. And we use it like a third-party aggregator that connects to most CRMs called Searchlight. And Searchlight, what I like about it is it also helps identify operational inefficiencies within the organization. So we had a client literally is spending about $15,000 a month on digital marketing services, and we generated $800,000 worth of revenue opportunity, which is insane, right? And they only had $400,000 worth of booked revenue. We looked at booking rates, and the booking rates were like below 30%. And I'm like, what is happening here? We're generating all this opportunity and your CRMs, your CSRs are not booking the call. Fix the booking rate. And imagine if you fixed your booking rate by 10%. That would be another $150,000 a month in revenue, right? So I love looking at the data because it also can help clarify the areas within the business that are not optimized yet. And then imagine if they were optimized. The same thing when you look at revenue, unbooked revenue, and unbooked estimates. Like, some of these companies have tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of open estimates and nobody's outbounding.
Yeah, like, it's crazy to me.
What do we
run these, we get new customers on ProLine's platform and we're like, you have like one customer in particular, not even a big company. In the past 12 months, they had $6 million of open quotes that they had never followed up on.
Yeah.
Not one time.
Insane.
It was, I think the number is $1.2 million we sold with automation.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. And like there's tools to facilitate this nowadays, right? So it's not like we don't have the staff to actually pick up the phone and call these people. I'm like, you don't need the staff to do this anymore. Like, so looking at the data, I think is super helpful to really understand what the numbers are actually telling you as an owner and an operator. And not everything is 100% tied to brand, but a lot of operational challenges I think you can trace back to having some problems. And when we look at the data on pre-rebranding and post-rebranding on its effect on average tickets, booking rates, and close rates, like the numbers are crazy. Like I just published the second edition of Branded Not Blanded, and I did an entire chapter on data, right? Because I wanted to showcase examples of guys that did not change the way they operated internally. They simply had a better presentation, a better
Yeah.
perception of their brand and how it affected. And some of the numbers are just crazy in terms of average tickets. Like it's nuts how much average tickets are affected by brand perception.
Yeah, that was another thing is, again, going back to like, you were one of the most expensive or the most expensive. When we rebranded, it was easy. Like the customer felt the value because we took the time and we invested in our brand.
Right.
And they also hold us to a higher standard, right?
They do.
Like we have to deliver
Right.
the service at a premium level, right?
But
it was so much easier. It was so much easier.
But let's be real for a second. What is the number one perception problem that homeowners have about contractors in general? Like what do they instinctively think about contractors? Right? What would you say, John? You've been in the world, right? You've been
Yeah.
out in the field. Trust.
I mean, it is 100% trust, and
Right.
then on top of trust, they don't communicate,
right.
and then they don't follow through. Those are the three biggest things.
So if already before you even get to interact with them, they're skeptical of your services. They're afraid of who's showing up at their home. They're afraid you won't do a good job because they've heard of all these horror stories of people ripping them off and their neighbors got a shitty job or whatever the case may be. So what are we doing to thwart that? What are we doing to change that perception of your business? Don't lump me in with these other guys, and here's why you shouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? Like, are we texting them before we even arrive at the door and introducing ourselves, saying, by the way, John D is going to be showing up today. John's been with the company for over 10 years. Him and his wife have lived in the community for 5 years, and their children go to this high school. Like,
Here's a
what are
little
we
picture,
doing
John.
to humanize who
Mhm.
we are?
Yep.
And show that we are different, even if we're different than private equity. Like hit that head on and talk about that. Why is private equity maybe a bad idea for you as a homeowner? What's the difference of having a family owned versus private equity? Like, what are we
Yep.
doing to get the message about why they should choose you versus not choose someone else? And build that value like you're talking about, because they'll pay more as long as they believe there's a reason to pay more, as long as they believe the outcome will benefit them more so than someone else. Otherwise, then all you're selling is a commodity. You're selling the
Yep.
price per square foot on the roof itself. And
Yep.
and they're going to just choose the cheapest possible person because they have not been demonstrated a reason why they should pay more with you versus someone else. So at that point, you better find a way to sell your stuff as cheap as possible because that's all they care about. But if
Yep.
that's not who you're trying to target, then you need to fix the perception of what the company is presenting to her.
Yeah. It's so, again, I live in Savannah, or the Savannah area in Georgia. Savannah bananas have kind of gone viral, and they've been popular way before they've gone viral. Great brand, but I met Jesse actually in the playground by my house.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it was awesome. It was a great fun meeting. I'd already read his book, and so I just said, hey, I just want to say hey. Anyway, even off camera, no yellow tux, his passion, he was like excited about my roofing business and understanding like fan first.
Yeah.
One more fan. And so when we talk about branding, a lot of guys make this mistake where they're branding for themselves personally.
Oh,
they may
yeah.
be hunters, or they're like, a lot of them are just like macho, aggressive men.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Mhm.
But your ideal customer may be
It's a woman.
a 54-year-old woman who's at home who like wants to take care of her roof.
Yeah.
So brand for your ideal customer. That's a huge thing. And the only way you get the next fan, the next customer, is by everything that you do is catering to that ideal customer profile. Like that's it. And we figured that out a long time ago, and we understood that we had I'm not branding to myself.
Yeah.
I'm branding to our ideal customer. And I just thought that was a reminder of like successful brands, fan first. Customer experience first. This is not, you're not a home service contractor, whatever you do. That's the result of all the other things ahead of that.
1,000%. 1,000%. And I got to meet Jesse Cole at the Roofing Process Conference last year and hung out with him a little bit. And his talk was just amazing. And he's just obviously he's doing incredible things. But to your point, I could just tell you this real quick story. When we rebranded Planet Roof in Pittsburgh, and that was a company that Lance Bachman had acquired and asked us to rebrand after. And the guys there initially were very resistant to the idea of rebranding. And the logo was a muscled mascot that was shaped like a globe. And, he was flexing and and they all loved it. Like, oh, my buddies love
great.
it. Like, it's super cool. And the guys in the gym love it. And I was just like, listen, like, I understand like why you might like it. And I respect that. But keep in mind, it's Mrs. Jones that we're selling to. And she's already scared shitless about who's coming to the house. Why do
Yep.
we want this muscled flexing mascot that looks like he's pissed off? Like, he didn't look like he was
Yeah, he was
happy.
angry.
He looked pissed off. And we just changed it, and we made the mascot friendly. We made the mascot look like he was there to take care of something, to make their pain go away. And he was super friendly, and he had a thumbs up, and he was ready to go. So it was the same idea, but what it actually communicated was very different than where they were. And, they went from, I think they were at 2 million in revenue when we rebranded them. And 2 years later, I think they're at 24 million in revenue.
Yep.
And it's not 100% because of the brand. I don't ever want to take credit for everything that's happened after I rebranded these companies, but certainly, and Lance just did a podcast with the owners, and they were talking about that. They were like, we didn't really understand how the perception of the brand was negatively impacting us until we
Yep.
experienced having this better brand on the other side of it. And they talked about it. And, I just thought that's a great case study, because so many guys think that they're the ones that need to love their own logo. And I'm like, well, would you rather the logo be built for an audience of one, or would you rather be built for the people you sell to every day? Because
Yeah.
if they're buying from you, at a certain point, I guarantee you're going to love the logo.
Yep.
Right? So,
And a lot of people are like, well, who's like, just a quick, easy thing to do. Look at your last 10, 15, 20 Google reviews and think about your most favorite customers that you worked with. And then just build a brand around that ideal customer. I get that question a lot. It's like, well, who is it? It's probably it. Just find that person. And it's probably, a female who's very nervous, like to your point, of these 3 different roofers that are going to come to her house.
yeah.
And our goal, this is something we always try to do, and we did it really, really well. We used automations with short videos introducing individual sales reps
Love it.
to the homeowner. So they sign up for an appointment. You're going to get watch this 47, literally in the text and the email, it said, watch this 47-second video.
Mhm.
And it would be like, hey, I'm Cameron. Hey, I'm Clay. And they would open the door when the inspection happened. We always had good branding and all the things were true. They opened the door. Hey, Cameron. Like, and I was like, yeah, told you guys this. They're like, they didn't know why they were filming these videos. I was like,
Yeah.
this is why.
Yeah.
And again, my job, my goal, and I think anyone, whether you're going to sell it tomorrow or you want to sell it in 2 years or you want to leave your business to your family, your kids, you are going to exit your business. It needs to be valuable. And brand is a huge part of that. Part of what we wanted to do is sell the job before we even showed up.
Yeah. I love that, because you humanized the brand. You made it seem personal about who was coming to their home.
Yep.
I love also messaging that does speak to engagement in the community and how long you've been in the community and what it means to serve the community, provide jobs for people in the community. Like, all that messaging is super important, especially in this day and age of PE. What are we doing to talk about that? And I think one other thing too that's real simple, and I know my good friend Joe at Contracted Dynamics talks about this, is the visibility within the community. A lot of those things that you can do for that are things that I would say, well, they're not super sexy things to do, but they work very well. So can we sponsor 10 little leagues and have our names on the back of every single kid on that team? Can we go to the 4th of July parade and have a float that goes down and all these people staring at our branded truck in a cool float? Those are all things, again, when you think about the true cost of that, and you mentioned earlier just having acquisition costs north of $1,000. You could probably do those things for way less money and have so much more exposure.
Exactly.
But now you're getting into that 5 Mile Famous mindset of doing these things so that you're visible, so that when they need this service, what was that company we saw that they were at the home show, they were at the parade, they sponsored my kids' team. Like, I just literally had a guy that does carpet cleaning and really high-end carpet cleaning. He's building an amazing business. He just invested, I think it was $34,000 on sponsorships for just about every single little league, softball, soccer, and football team in his community. Like
Yep.
he's just going to own it. And he was like, Dan, I looked at how much money I was spending on Google and all these other things, and I can have deeper impact and I can have more meaningful conversations with parents and I could be more active in the community by doing that than just randomly just throwing money at Google. And again, those are things I describe as not being sexy because people just want to say, well, it's just much easier for me to write it, write a check or give Google my credit card. I'm like, yeah, it is maybe, but what's the ROI on those efforts?
Yeah.
And people want to say, well, I did a home show and I didn't get one single lead. It's not exactly how it's meant to work. Like you should get leads if you do it well, but brand building is compounded over time, right?
Yeah.
So investing in those things and those nuts and bolts things, even just like site signs, like having a really good site sign instead of like a piece of shit white 18 by 24 coroplast signs, which no one is going to pay attention to. But what if you had something really cool with great colors that was cut out and your mascot was cut out of it and it didn't look like every other one? And I left
Yep.
it on the job site, for a week after. And then I went and I saw an ad for them on Facebook. And then I saw them talking on a Facebook community page about helpful tips for preventing ice dams. Like those are the little things that start compounding over time.
Yeah. So true. So I had my Athens branch manager and then my Savannah branch manager. And so they had different interests. And like neither one of them played baseball. So there are no baseball teams. But one of them coached soccer and he was into like the surf community and like
Mhm.
very tight knit community. I would say like those kind of things where you invest, it's really smart to things that they're passionate about. Other one was like foster parents, like all that whole community of like foster care, all that is actually pick the things that they're passionate about and people will see the actual authenticity of it.
Yeah.
And then you'll find your pocket of people. And that again, to your point, like serving, like coaching for free, helping with like all these things are tied together. That's one thing that we actually figured out towards the end of the business. Like we just do you get excited about doing this? Like, I don't play baseball, so don't do baseball then. Let's do
Yeah.
what you do. And like that was a really helpful thing to, again, you're building the brand, but you're also humanizing that individual person that they win. It was a massive thing for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing too, when we talk about the idea of disruption and being different, I think I would just say for the folks on here, and if there's a lot of folks that are in the roofing space, just go on Google and just type in roofing company logos, roofing company examples. And if you see your logo up there, that should tell you everything you need to know about why what you have just completely blends in and is unlikely to be remembered. And
Yeah.
it's a very simple thing, but until you like see it, you're like, oh my God, like my top 5 competitors have very similar rooftop clip art logos and they look just like me. Why would I expect Mrs. Jones to suddenly remember having seen my brand if I look just like everybody else's? And so when you think about running a billboard and doing things like that and they feel very familiar, no one is likely to recall it later on. So again, you'll spend a ton of money trying to market a weak brand rather than just sort of fixing the deficiencies and then capitalizing it over time afterwards. So that one-time investment in branding is something that I think always yields dividends later on.
Yeah. I mean, again, speaking from personal experience, do it. It'll cost more later, a lot more.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's one thing you got to do. I get it though. And there's challenges like, what am I doing? It's understanding. I think just in general, you may see this too with your clients. They usually aren't accountants. They're usually either, at least in our space, they're either roofing, like they're actual installers. They've been installing for a long time. They're the tradesmen.
Yeah.
Or they're sales reps. And both of those people have different types of personality. They do. And they think that what they do is the most important. And in reality, there's usually 5 to 7 parts of every business anyway. And the production and the sales are just 2 parts of that. And they're like, well, what's marketing? Just pay a marketing agency and they'll take care of it. Well, that's not really a smart thing to do. You need to understand it's equally, if not more valuable than what you're doing.
Right.
Again, the marketing, if done correctly, is more valuable than the sales part. Because, like I said, we wanted to sell the job before. We had lots of sales like that. So many They're like, oh, we know we're going with you because of X, Y, and Z. We watched these videos on your website. We already knew Cameron was coming to our house. We know you have these 5-star reviews. Like all these things, that's the dream. Do you want to go and have, shout out to all the people who knock doors, but do you want to have to go chase that all the time? Or would you rather have a machine that runs that people on your team like to come to work every day because it's like slam dunks all the time? People trust you.
Yep.
People trust you. We have multiple people in our market that like, they're the most expensive HVAC. We don't care. We call them every time. And you guys didn't brand them, but like they have a strong brand. They show up every time. They have all those automation communication things. We know they're going to do a good job. And they've actually messed up one time and they came back and fixed it the next day.
Right.
Like they have thousands of 5-star reviews. Like
you'll pay a premium for that because
it's the most expensive.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're going to do this because it's going to get taken care of the right way.
Yep.
It's people. I just think most tradesmen or sales reps who start any kind of home service, they don't realize that that's the route that they should be going down. Not like race to the bottom, cheap. We're ripping people off. They need to understand this is all matters. You're actually serving. Going back to Jesse Cole, you're serving your customer better.
Yeah.
If you care about your brand more than just the logo and the name, you're actually serving people better. And that's why I really appreciate what you guys do, because that's just not really preached about at all.
No, 1,000%. And so many great lessons from Jesse Cole that are really applicable to any type of business, honestly. Like it's just incredible what he's done, but the mindset of what he's done, I think is so accurate, and creating those fans and then thinking about all the work that goes into creating that fan, and then how likely they are to talk to other people about the experience is the other piece of it. So when that Facebook post comes up in the community page and they say, who's a good roofing contractor, and they would be excited to share their experience. I worked with this company. They were amazing. You know, those are the things that there's so much value in creating that experience, you know, top to bottom. Like everything from start to finish was first class, you know, so absolutely. I think it's an area that a lot of people can learn so much from.
Absolutely. Well, branded, not blended. Is this version 2 with the data added into?
Yeah, version 2 is the second edition. It's actually if you are searching for it on Amazon, just make sure you get the version that has the black cover, not the yellow cover. The yellow cover is first edition. And you can get it on Kindle for both versions. And if you want Audible, unfortunately, only the first edition is on Audible for reasons I cannot explain, that Amazon has not been able to make my second edition on Audible, but the first one they could. It's very strange. But yeah, I think it's a good read, and I think you would learn a lot. I would say also on our YouTube channel, regardless of whether you ever decide to work with KickCharge or can work with KickCharge, there's so much content on our YouTube channel talking about naming, talking about, you know, effective wrap design, anything like that. And I think, you know, again, the more you understand as a contractor, whether you use us or not, the better off you will be in having a much better outcome.
100% can speak from experience. Well, Dan, thanks for coming on. KickCharge Creative is awesome. Everybody, thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you again next time.
Thanks, John.